WBCK. Joining us in the studio now, Calhoun County Sheriff Matt Saxton and the Marshall Public Safety Department Chief Jim Shwartz, both here today. You gents are ready to cut the ribbon on a new facility, are you not?
Yes, we are, Richard, and actually our two agencies along with Michigan State Police will be sharing a shared facility over in Marshall, and we're excited about the opportunity to have a new facility for our law enforcement divisions.
What does this do for you, Chief?
Well, what it does is allow us, three agencies, to kind of consolidate and share services amongst each other. We're doing that now, but when we have our detective bureau, for example, all three agencies working together, that's in real time. That's not sharing information a day or two later. As you're well aware, a lot of our crimes are now crossing jurisdictions anyway. So when they're working together, and those cases can be resolved that much sooner.
Well, this is also what the governor told us to do a few years ago, right? Start working more together.
Well, exactly right. Collaboration has been the key word coming out of Lansing for many years now. And for us, our three entities to build this building together, 60% of the space in the building is shared space between all three entities. So each agency has been in need of a law enforcement center for many years. The sheriff's office moved back into the old jail in Marshall back in 1998 for a 2-year temporary move. So we're much outside that 2-year window at this point. So we're excited to have a new law enforcement center, and it's at a fraction of the cost that it would have been for each of the entities to build their own buildings.
Well, and we'll talk about that too, that obviously being one of the big advantages. But it seems like a no-brainer that if you do collaborate, and you often do, that to make the geography easier makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Sure. That location where we're at, Marshall is pretty centered within the county. The access from our building to the highways assists the state police and the sheriff quite well. It's been that section of the property has been added into the city, so it meets the needs of the city. So taking all that into consideration, as the sheriff mentioned before, combining our needs into one and 60% shared space has brought that cost down to reasonable to our taxpayers as well.
We're talking about the Marshall Regional Law Enforcement Center. The ribbon gets cut today. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a minute on WBCK 813. WBCK, Richard Piet here with Sheriff Matt Saxton and the Marshall Public Safety Director, Jim Shwartz, with us as they get ready to, participate in a little pomp and circumstance. There is a celebration today, right?
There is, yes. Today at 1:30, we will have most of the elected officials throughout the county and the state of Michigan down to do a grand open ribbon cutting of the new facility.
What kind of a hurdle was this? Now, it makes a lot of sense to work together, but when it comes to, getting government entities to merge their services and figure out how to make things work, sometimes it's like turning the forestall or something. It takes time. Was this complicated?
Well, to start out with, you have to meet the needs of each agency. So working with the sheriff, even went farther back to Sheriff Byam to begin with. And then through the election, Sheriff Saxton came on board with the state police and there through the state of Michigan Department of Budget and Management. It is a long process, but one that wasn't difficult. I just want to make sure that when you build this, we're looking 30, 40, 50 years down the road.
Right.
So the technology just within the last few years has been that much of a change. So we're looking that far much ahead. But the process was, I found records back in the 1980s where the city of Marshall was looking to build a building with the state police and our local legislators, were involved back then, and they are today. And that's how this got done.
So how did you decide what you needed in this building with technology moving like it is?
Well, and through the years, each agency has done a needs study and a space studies on the areas they need for law enforcement. On the technology side of things, our technology usually is old technology by the time we put it into service, just because technology moves that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But we do know with this building, this facility, uh, we are able to meet our needs for space-wise now and in the future. We also, along with that building, it's about 38,000 square feet in the office building area, which shares the three agencies. But we also have a 18,000 square foot storage facility in the rear of the building that will allow us to store vehicles that may have been involved with a fatal accident. We can keep those inside as opposed to have to look for a wrecker agency to keep those with. At the sheriff's office, we provide marine patrol in the summertime, so we are always looking for somewhere to store our boats during the winter time, and
Sure.
and we didn't have that space. So with that new storage facility in the back, it gives all three agencies the space needed to store those vehicles indoors as well.
So as you studied what you needed at Marshall, does this tick off that whole checklist?
Absolutely. As the sheriff said, we're doing a needs study well ahead of time. And then we look at, well, if these needs are all the same amongst the three agencies, why don't we combine those and share that space or that technology and move forward? One of the other areas that I want to mention that we had cooperation with is our school system. Where we're located, we were able to set up an access drive out the back to the schools in case, we look forward. So what if something happens on Old 27 in that area? Can we get access out the back and come around if need be? It's not just law enforcement, it's those other government entities and the neighbors, and you had those town meetings and keeping everybody informed. So taking that all in consideration, this building was designed to meet the needs now and into the future.
So presuming that each department involved here, the state, the county, Marshall, all has their own budgets, how did you sort out how to pay for this?
Well, the funding of it, it's kind of, we had to draw it out on paper to show to track it.
Flow chart or something?
The city of Marshall is the owner of the building.
I see.
And the city of Marshall paid for their share of the building space. Calhoun County actually had a better bonding rating, so they bonded our portion and the state police's portion.
Mm-hmm.
So we're leasing space from the city, and the state police is subletting from the county. So it's
wow.
It did take a while to figure out the funding for it, but I talked about, we have shared space. We're also sharing staff. Each entity is providing a staff member to do one function that normally all three of us would need. So the sheriff's office staff will man the front desk of the facility. Marshall City, they have a facility manager that will manage the facility as a whole, and the state police employees will man the property and evidence room, which all three agencies need that use.
Sure.
So we're saving on staffing costs. If all three of us had to have somebody at the front desk, take care of the facilities, so we're sharing and using taxpayer dollars the best we can.
Was this a business model that you saw somewhere else, or did you create this from the beginning?
This is quite unique. There are other facilities that maybe have one or two in there. Redstone Architect was the designer of the building and also came up with the business model on this facility. So we've actually had agencies outside of this area, Tennessee, North Dakota, come and look at our model to take back to their areas and move forward. So we're kind of making a footprint here, and one that I think everyone will be very proud of as they go through the building today and tomorrow.
And the other areas or agencies that share buildings don't necessarily share the space like we are doing. And to have three agencies and to be able to share 60% of that building space is remarkable.
We're talking with Sheriff Matt Saxton and Marshall Public Safety Director Jim Shwartz about the new Marshall Regional Law Enforcement Center. They cut the ribbon on that today. We'll come back in a moment and also talk a little bit about the ongoing investigation as it relates to what appears to be some sort of firearm being used along freeways. That investigation continues. We'll talk about that in just a moment. 823 WBCK Sheriff Matt Saxton and Marshall Public Safety Director Jim Shwartz here. So you'll cut the ribbon on all this. Did you all own buildings already, and what will you do with those, by the way?
Well, the sheriff's office, we were working out of the old jail next to the county building in Marshall. Strangely enough, we lost the roof on that building about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, in one of the storms we had in November, I believe, of 13. And as I said, we moved back into that facility in '98 for a 2-year temporary move. So that facility has been aged out years ago. That will be torn down eventually. Once we get everything moved out of that. We do have some stuff stored in there, and the county's plan is to tear that down and make better parking for access to the county building, especially handicap parking, which it sorely lacks at this time.
Okay. How about Marshall?
Right, we are now currently in a temporary facility as well, in the garage area of the Department of Public Works. So the men and women of Marshall are using a facility that's not designed for law enforcement.
Yeah.
So this building, again, bringing it up to date and using the technology available now and into the future will make our law enforcement that much better.
All right. Well, congratulations. It's always fun to move into a new place.
And real quick on the state police current housing, they currently work out of Coldwater Post. The Battle Creek Post here closed a few years ago, and they combined Branch, St. Joe, and Calhoun counties working out of the Coldwater Post, and a lot of troopers work from their homes as well. So the Coldwater Post folks will be moving to the new facility administrative wise, and the troops that work in Calhoun County will work out of the new facility. So they are also excited about having a new facility.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. Sounds like it is a model that others should be looking at, and makes life a little easier.
Right.
So this issue, Sheriff, about the bullets flying along freeways recently, some stories have called it a sniper. That's a dramatic word. That we haven't heard you use that word, but it evidently was a case where somebody saw something in their car that might have been a gunshot puncture, and that brought some other cases forward?
Right. The original incident was reported on the 19th of August, and we have verified that damage to that vehicle was caused by a firearm. At that point, we did put out a press release asking for anybody with information that may have seen something along with that incident, or if anybody else has sustained damage to their vehicles. So after that news release on the 19th, we did receive several other, I guess, victims come forward and say their vehicles received damage while driving down 94 between 11 Mile and 69. Or a couple more came forward saying they received damage to their vehicles on I-69 between M60 and Jonesville Road.
So where do things stand now?
So after those came forward, we chose to activate our Major Crimes Task Force. We've been investigating that for a little over a week now. We have not had any further incidents on either stretch of roadway since the last one was the original reporter on I-94 that occurred on the 19th, and we did have one on 69 that was reported on the 21st, but since then we have no further incidents. Our task force hopefully will be wrapping up this week. We're still waiting on a little more information. We had to re-interview all the victims, make sure locations were right, and we've canvassed the neighborhoods. That's obviously a long stretch of roadway with residents, rural area residents that we had to talk to see if any of them may target practice in the backyard or if it's an errant bullet. So It's still a big jigsaw puzzle, and in law enforcement, while we're putting those puzzles together, we can't go by the picture on the box and make the picture look like we want it to. We got to make sure it looks like what it is.
Yeah.
So
So you're doing that now.
Again, people driving down the freeways, if they do see something out of place, please call and report it. We'll come out and look at it. But if you do sustain damage to your vehicle and you think it may be from a firearm, don't stop at the location the damage occurred, but continue on to the next off-ramp, get to a public place and call 911, but make a mental note of where you are on the freeway so that you're able to take us back there at a later time so we can look at the crime scene if there is one.
I'm running out of time, but it's clear though in your investigation that these things happened on the freeway. I mean, I'm imagining all the noise of driving down the freeway, and then I pull into the driveway at home and see something on the car and maybe not know where that happened. In these cases, folks are comfortable with saying that these things happen on the freeway.
Our victims all are adamant that they did occur on the freeway.
Okay.
The first original reporting victim that occurred on the 19th is 100% sure that his occurred on the freeway between 11 Mile and I-69.
Okay.
The damage on that vehicle was a passenger side mirror. He used that mirror while he was changing lanes, saw that it was okay. Again, a couple miles down the road, went to change lanes again and realized the damage to his mirror. So it did occur
Makes it easier to
in that location.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we'll stand by for further updates then. Thanks to the both of you. Have fun with the big ribbon cutting today.
Thank you,
Get the
Rich.
movers all ready? Are the trucks ready to just move you right in today? Or?
I think most of our officers and deputies are jumping the gun, and they want to get in there before the ribbon cutting.
We have to wait till 1:30? Yeah, right. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Thank
to
you.
both of you.
Thank you.
All right.